Stories Podcast, your number one show for everything guitar.
Hello. I wasn't ready for the end of that. Hello, welcome to Guitar Stories number 88. A bit of an abrupt start there. I'll let you into a secret. This week, Dan has control of all videos, graphics, and going live buttons, so anything could happen. I am hands-free, baby. Hi, Dan.
Fantastic. Hey, Andy. Good to be back. Nice to see you. How are you doing?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. Good. We have episode 88, which, as a Back to the Future fan, is a big, big moment for me. We've made it all this far to this episode, and great Scott, it's going to be a good one. We've got, in fact, I'll let you tell everyone who we've got. I'm definitely monopolizing the conversation because we've just had a coffee.
All right. Well, then let me give a quick introduction to who's on the show tonight. We welcome Pasquale Pet Campolattano, who studied music in Berkeley and has earned a reputation as a guitar builder at Guitar Craft Academy. Upon graduation, he worked for a well-known Japanese guitar and motorcycle builder, making some of their creations shine bright like a star. Yeah, thank you. In late 2020, and this is basically the reason why we invited him, Pat got appointed as principal master builder for Jackson, Chauvel, and EVH, and has been bringing us some of the wildest, some of the prettiest, and some of the sexiest custom creations, of which some have been on the show already for Buy, Borrow, or Burn. Pat is also a fellow gaming nerd, Star Wars fan, and all-around guitar personality to follow in 2023, and I'm very happy to welcome him as one of the last guests this year. Hello, Mr. Pat. Hey,
Hi, Pat.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me. This is great.
Hey.
I'm
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, you got everything. You got my Star Wars love, video game love. Yeah, of course.
I did some web stalking, just the usual routine every week.
Did you see anyone peeking through your window at work today? Because if you did, it was
no, but my Nintendo Switch did glitch a couple of times, when I was playing the other day. So
that's what it is. That's what it is. Welcome also to everybody in the live chat. Let's just give a few shout outs. We've got Gary, we've got Studio Camille, who should be doing his Chinese lessons as far as I remember. Randy Taylor, Valeria is here moderating for us. Floopty-doo. Hello, Floopty-doo. I remember you from last time. I got so excited about your username. Melogify is here, and also is Michael Lerner and Poo Ninja, and we've got more later. Exciting to have you on the show, Pat. I want to know everything about your job and everything that you do. Was I right in saying that you came from your grandfather's workshop, who had a gunsmith workshop? Is that right?
Yeah. So when my family emigrated from Italy, my grandfather, previous to emigrating, would sweep up shop in a gunsmith shop, and it was always his hobby. He became a machinist and eventually set up his own workshop at his house, and is kind of a local legend where I grew up. And I have some pieces that he hand engraved. He made the whole thing, and as a child, I would just be in his workshop from very small, probably 5, 6. He gave me my first pocket knife, immediately cut myself, and letting me work on my own little projects. So I was always in awe of his work and just watching him take blocks of things and just turn them into fascinating pieces of art that when he would deliver them, people would just be amazed. So I always loved that, watching him get the glory of that and be in his element. And I learned a ton, probably before I even went to high school, just watching him. So it was cool.
Wow. That's really nice that it's come from what seemingly such a strong, deep-rooted part of your life.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's definitely the biggest influence I have in terms of my career. There's been a lot of influential people in terms of playing and my educators over the years that have had a huge impact. But I go home whenever I can, and he's my first stop, and I always just shoot, the breeze with him and ask him what he's up to. It's almost his birthday, so happy birthday, no.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So we're going to get to know you much better, and there's going to be lots of questions, of course, from the chat. So anyone in the chat right now, you have any questions for Pat, please save them for a little bit later, because all three of us have some gear picks tonight. I'm going to do the gear picking of the week and the borrowing and burning of stuff, and there might be some Jackson on the show. You never know. You never know what Dan or I might pick. So yeah, well, I think we might as well start with Dan's pick then, because I kind of know what it is, and now Dan's in charge of graphics. He can do it himself. So have you got a little jingle to play for yourself there, Dan?
I think so. Let me find it. Yeah. Okay. Rolling my jingle right now. Dance, pick up the week. Dance, pick up the week. Oh boy, that's so stressful.
I know.
And he's really making me feel how stressful it is here. All right, so my pick of the week, and it's a great pleasure to have him on the show, is the new Josh Smith signature. Oh wait, no, the new Josh Smith signature. I was working hard on that one.
Wow.
Yeah, I was completely amazed to figure out that there are actually two Josh Smith signature models from two manufacturers, one being from my friends at Ibanez and one from Pat's company, Jackson. And they built him a monster of a guitar. It's what's the name of the model? It's an SL7, so a 7-string guitar, and it is called the Josh Smith Soloist SL7. Yeah. And what's so special about this one, it's a 7-string that kind of blends in, let's say, some classical looks and a lot of modern specs into a monster of an instrument. And it basically is an aquamarine Strat style guitar, but it's equipped with an Evertune bridge, a 20-inch scale, baritone scale. It's got a neck-through construction. And several minor tweaks like knobs that are out of the way when you pick, and we also got, I think it's bare knuckle pickups, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's Josh Smith Impulse signature pickups, lumen lays, a compound radius ebony fingerboard with 24 frets. That's also something that's pretty cool. I think a lot of players are kind of gravitating more towards compound radii nowadays. Roasted maple neck with graphite reinforcement. It's got an alder body. Always a big fan of alder as a very let's say like a very neutral wood that's translates very nicely into all genres. And like I said, like a 20-inch scale baritone with neck through construction is something that is so unique in the market that I couldn't overlook that for today's pick. So that's my pick of the week. I think it clocks in at around 1,800 euros or 2,100 bucks in the US. So interesting instrument. That probably a niche guitar, but a really nice one. And like I said, to go full circle, I like that it blends in the new world, the chaka down-tuned world with some of the visuals and cosmetics of the old world. And that's my pick of the week. What do you guys think? Completely unbiased, of course.
I
Great
wonder
choice.
what our guest. Yeah, what does our guest think of that? I have no idea.
I mean, it's going to be hard to beat that. That's yeah, it's great. No, I love that guitar. That was a project that was started before I ever arrived at Jackson. So credit for the team for working on that model. It's a beautiful, beautiful guitar. I love the color. Hum single is like my favorite pickup combination. Even though it's a rail, I love it. I even like what is it? Not Bill Lawrence. The other blade pickup that I've used before. Well, I've used DiMarzios and things in the past, but the name is evading me. The Danny Gatton set. They're really great blade style pickups, especially in that neck position. I've done stuff like that for Jeff Schroeder in the past from Smashing Pumpkins, and those have always worked out really well. They sound killer. So it's a fun combo. Evertune bridge, thing will never fall out of tune, and that's cool with the Strat head too. so you get that nice straight string pull.
Yeah.
Great choice.
Thank you. So Andy's gone. Where's Andy?
He went to go get his pick.
Yeah, probably. I hope we're still live. But in that case, are you involved when you said that project started before? Are you involved currently with some sort of artist builds as well, so that there are prototypes being made in the custom shop that then serve as a blueprint for signature models that are produced in Asia afterwards?
Well, I have made artist guitars here in the past, of course. I did some for Scott Ian. I'm working on one for Patrick Sheridan for Fit for an Autopsy right now. Did the Frank Bello bass master built run. In terms of like new products and stuff like that, mostly I've just been filling orders. Like artists ask us for orders, but of course, like when it came to Frank Bello's model, he had some tweaks to the import that are slightly different. And I essentially, whenever I get a project, I make a full 3D model, like a new model of everything. And I have to make all my own tools too. So when I have my own NC in the shop, which is great, and then I'll make my own fixtures for the body, for the neck, and like I make the inlay blocks. I make the brass nut myself. I'll do the pick guard. I'll make as many pieces as I can, or is reasonable. Like the back plates are anodized black aluminum, and those are kind of standardized. So that's something where it's like an off-the-shelf part.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Hey. You're putting me on the spot here, right?
Sorry, apologies for that. We have a bit of a snowstorm.
Oh no.
Yeah, a bit of a snowstorm here in Austria, so my internet has decided to misbehave this evening. Hopefully it will stay, but luckily because Dan's an official co-host tonight, we won't lose the stream.
That's good.
Which is an added bonus. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Question: we have two guitar gigs here. How do I change my handle?
I'll pick up. But did we like that Jackson?
Yes.
Of course.
Thumbs up, right?
Oh, I'm Andy and you're Andy as well.
Yeah, I saw that. How do I choose that?
I have zero idea. Oh
okay.
no, I have zero idea. But tonight you're also Andy Guitar Geek.
That's fine. You know what?
Dueling Andys.
Everything was perfect, so there had to be that slight little thingy that goes all right. Yeah.
Have you burned my pick yet? What did I miss?
No, not at all.
Is it my turn yet?
It is. I'm very curious to see what, or if we want to put our guests in the middle as a sandwich, gear sandwich.
Let's have a Pat sandwich.
All right. Well, then let's hear about it.
So it's my turn now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. My pick. It's not guitar, but it's one of the coolest things I've seen in a very long time. It's from Teenage Engineering, and it's called The Choir, and it is a series. Yeah, there they are. Little kind of figurines, each with their own speaker embedded, and they communicate with one of their synth controllers. And it's like one of the coolest things. If you hear each one of these figurines is like its own different personality, has its own range in the choir, baritone, alto, soprano, tenor, whatever. And they all make slightly different sounds, and it's like one of the coolest things I've seen. And I thought, oh man, I gotta get that into guitar somehow. Like I was thinking like a sequencer where it's like steps on stage. If you had all these different talking heads, you can have your delays ping-ponging, or you can use a MIDI pickup and do some strange sounds with it. I don't know. I just thought it was one of the coolest things I've seen in music in a long time.
Yeah. There's some videos out there that show how it's working, and it's super funny to listen to it. It's really unique, and it's a super cool pick. I think it's one of the most like out of the field picks that's super strange but also super interesting in a long time. Yeah. Not just a boring guitar.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, of course, guitars are my whole world. But when I think about what's next for the guitar world, sometimes you have to step out of it a little bit and see what the rest of the band is doing, right? I think one of the biggest things for guitar players is, this is my band, or the band, it's like I'm the lead and everything kind of revolves around the guitar, but it's so much more than, just the guitar player. If you're into R&B or funk, it's a percussive instrument a lot of the times, or in jazz, a lot of the times it's just playing with the orchestra, it's filling out chords. So I just think, what is out there that's different that makes you kind of shift your opinion of, what could be possible for our humble instrument, even though it's grown its tentacles across genres and things.
Yeah.
I dig the pick. I don't understand the pick, but I dig the pick. I don't really know how it works. I'll have to watch some of the videos to find out. But just based on looks alone, which as a guitar player is how I choose most of my equipment, that looks absolutely phenomenal. And I think that I could have that in my living room, kitchen, social area of my house, and I'd get away with it. Especially the Pinocchio-looking one on the left.
Yeah, I was about to say, our kids would just play with that. I'm pretty sure they would just play some sort of theater with it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Imagine that's your guitar
really
amp at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to try it. I'd love to see it implemented in guitar. I'd like to know the price.
I don't think it's very cheap. But, I mean, hey, what I make is not very cheap either, so I always think,
well played.
It's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes.
Yeah, it's for the discerning musician. But I think it's a strong pick. Unfortunately, I have no idea how to I like it. I just have no idea how to feel about it, because it's so out there. My brain has not yet grasped what it is and how it works. It's been a long
you gotta
day.
Watch the videos.
Right. I will.
It's so cool, and I encourage the audience to check it out too. It's a very fun little product.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I definitely want to know what the live chat members are thinking of that one, and I would definitely love to see that brought into the guitar world. I know that we're not exactly famous for being accepting to new technology and new ideas, but it should be fun to see just some tiny little people playing guitars. I think that's fun.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, we've got one more pick left. It is my pick, and hopefully my internet connection will stay as I choose it.
Andy's pick of the week.
All right.
You know that both of your picks have been quite expensive so far, or rather not very affordable, but certainly discerning, and for the experienced and slightly wealthy musician. I don't think mine's any different. For mine is a guitar that money cannot buy, or rather I should say a collection of guitars. It is the new Tom DeLonge Fender Starcaster, which doesn't actually exist as a production model yet, but I dig the Starcaster so much, and Blink-182 was such a big part of my musical love when I was a teenager, that and also his other models, the Fender Strat that he played for a while, and the ES333 from Gibson that he played, they have rocketed in price, and the Squier ones as well. So I think but this will certainly go into production in hopefully both a Fender and Squier version. In fact, I have a Starcaster just here, which looks a lot like it. So this has got a 2-humbucker, the active Squier one, in this Shoreline Gold. And if you look on this picture, there's one very similar to it in the middle, except that he has... I think they're F-holes. I couldn't quite see if they were painted on or real. Oh, no, they are real. But there's Tom DeLonge, so he's only got a bridge humbucker. They've got special Blink-182 inlays done by Ron Thorne. You've got a big Fender Strat-style headstock. And it seems to be somewhere in between that 333 and the Strat. I love it. I think it's going to be a big guitar in the next, whenever it's released. Let's hope the next half a year. But yeah, Blink-182 are back, and I think that Tom DeLonge's guitar is going to make punk and pop punk back and make a lot of people happy.
Great pick. I saw those on.
So that's my pick.
Our shipping guy, Fred, I saw him on his rack the other day. All 4 of them. I picked them up. They're surprisingly light.
Okay.
They're really great guitars. Very cool. Yeah, Ron did the inlays. Some of the R&D guys, I think, did the builds here. I honestly don't know too much about that project, but super cool. Love the paint. Yeah, very fun guitars. So that's a great pick.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. What I like about it is maybe we can take another look on it. Is that he sticks with the original concept in the Stratocaster back in the day. He had the Invader from Seymour Duncan in the bridge position, and there was little, that would distract from the reduced concept. So it was really a punk guitar. And after his little bit of a liaison with Epiphone and Gibson, he's now coming back and taking some of the ideas from his time post Blink-182, and now he's rejoined the band, and so he's kind of going full circle, but taking ideas from both guitar brands that he worked with and culminating in that model, and it's pretty cool. And like Andy just said, prices have skyrocketed. It's so high that it's probably there's an audience for that guitar. And with all the kids back in the day that were playing the Squire model, they would probably lust for a, more price-intensive Fender original guitar made in the USA. And now they can afford it. They are fluent and they are grown-ups now, so they can live their dream and become teenagers again.
Yeah, I mean that's totally my teenage years, like Blink-182. I was born in '88 too. So this is episode 88. I was born in '88. It's like this is classic for us. I loved, I would go to like the school dances and stuff, right? And they'd be blasting Blink-182, and it was huge all through high school. I remember those Strats and stuff. Right. They're cool, and those guitars came out really nice. The roasted necks look really cool. The inlays, of course, by Ron.
They're amazing. What exactly is that? Is that that's the Blink logo, right?
Yeah, I think it's it's like kind of like that little face.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's before they got all stickered up. Yeah, and I like that satin gold too. That satin gold really looks cool.
All right. So you saw all 4 finishes. So basically the shell pinkish, the goldish one, the green, and the white antique white or something, right?
Yeah. I saw him. I was like, I just poked my head in because where the Jackson area is like right by where the custom shop shipping guys are. Yeah. So and we always check out what's going through, and all the master builders come and drop off our guitars when we're done. Yeah. So I walked in, and then Fred goes like that, and he's like, check that out. I was like, oh shoot, look at that, that's really cool.
That is cool.
I immediately picked one up. I was like, oh man, this thing is light. It's very fun. And of course anything Ron puts his hands on too, inlay wise, that always looks killer. So
you remember his business cards? I don't know if you have business cards like that, but I still have his custom shop business card that's actually on a bird's eye maple.
Oh, like a veneer, yeah. That's funny. Actually, I don't even have cards. I'm not sure what they're doing that. I think since COVID and stuff, it's, I haven't gotten any, but yeah, that's cool. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. That's a business card you not see being thrown away. A lot of times.
Yeah.
That's a highlight of every collection. Yeah.
How's the snow?
Wet, cold, and white.
Yeah.
Also, apparently quite heavy because it's weighing down all the megabytes and gigabytes and keeps kicking me off the internet. But I've just gone and reset everything. I also put my head out the window and shouted, "Will you please stop it?" And that seems to have worked. We'll see how long for.
It's too polite.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah. Well, I was editing for YouTube.
Of course.
Yeah.
All right. So guys, where do we stand? We have had 3 picks.
Whoa.
3, I think, what I think are amazing picks. What does the audience think, guys in chat? What's your pick?
Do we need to buy, borrow, or burn?
Oh yeah, okay. Let's
Okay.
do the jingle first, okay?
Dan, you do the jingle because you've got control tonight. I'm excited.
All right.
I borrow or burn.
All right.
Pat, no pressure, but this is the most important decision you'll make of your life.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, I mean, okay, I would say I'm gonna buy, of course, the Jackson, because that's my lane, right? And something that I would use more frequently than the other two.
Okay.
I would borrow a hollow body, of course. I have a couple. I got like a jazz box and like an ES type. But that that Tom DeLonge, that thing, when you pick it up, I was like, oh cool, this thing is cool. So I would definitely want to borrow that. And unfortunately, I'm gonna have to burn my own pick. But really, what I'd like to do is burn up some sweet licks on the Jackson, just burn up the stage. Or I thought about doing doing a blowtorch finish on one of those, and we could burn one of these, one of these guitars. That'd be kind of cool. So I think I escaped your question pretty well.
Yeah, that was a lovely little dance you just did. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's hard burning your own pick, but it happens to me roughly every week, so I don't mind. I actually kind of lost the connection when you said that you picked up the Starcasters. The guitars that I showed the photo of, you've actually picked those up.
Yeah. So what I was saying is, we have a shipping area that all the master builders bring their guitars when they're done, and they were sitting there one day, and I saw all 4 of them in the rack, and I just loved all the colors. But yeah, very light guitar, and it just looked cool, So I was a big fan.
Cool. That must be the coolest area. I mean, if I was working there, I would probably go every break. I would just walk by to see if there's something new popping up, right?
Well, you could check them out, but yeah, most of the time, once they're on the rack, you're not supposed to touch them. But some things are special, so it's like you really, yeah. So sometimes I'll take my own guitars and I'll be like, guys, go grab me a case, and I will put it in the case myself and lock it and be like, nobody touch this.
Oh,
yeah,
sounds good.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
And just a kind of inside question? Do you do like proper photo shooting of every single guitar that you're building before you're shipping that out, or is that not necessarily done?
Some folks do. Not like Ron does. He's got like a really nice camera and like lights and all that set up. But most of the time, I just do portrait mode on my iPhone and try and get a good spot. I'm not a great photographer. I have a lot of friends that are photographers, and I just try not to. I stay in my lane. Right. I know how to use the phone. That's what I'll stick with, and hopefully it looks cool. But yeah.
All right.
Yeah, well, I've taken a look at your Instagram. It looks absolutely lovely. So yeah, you're doing a good job.
Thank you.
Regarding the Starcaster, the first time I ever saw a Starcaster was at the Fender Custom Shop in 2019 or 20. And I didn't know what a Starcaster was. It was a model that was not around at that point. I'd never done the research and gone into it. And there was one outside John Cruise's at the time little room, and I love that little place because it's like a little market hall where everybody goes in their own little room. And there was a Starcaster, and I instantly said, "What is that?" And and now I have one, and now hopefully I'll get a Tom DeLonge one at some point. Unless everybody burns it. Can I go next, Dan? Can I go next? Because I think you might be the decider this week. Right. Okay. I am very clearly going to buy my own pick, the Tom DeLonge Fender Starcaster / Squire version when it comes out, depending on what comes out, if it comes out, and how fast it comes out. Mm-hmm. Then, through curiosity, I have to borrow Pat's pick, the Teenage Engineering Little Dollies, which means I have to do something I really don't want, and that's burn the Soloist. And I really don't want to do that for reasons that I know it will be an excellent guitar, and also I think Jackson might be watching or listening to this. But at least I'm honest. It's just a process of elimination. I have to get the Tom DeLonge stuff. It's so exciting. I want to try the Teenage Engineering droids. Therefore, I've got to burn me some Jackson.
No shame. It's okay. Hey, not everybody plays a 7-string or does that kind of thing. Don't sweat it. At least,
But that's the
at
thing.
least
I
you're
want to
an
try it. I
independent
want to play
family.
the 7-string. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. I feel bad though, but
It's just a
I will
game.
sleep tonight. My soul is clean. My soul is clean.
Yeah.
Now you're putting me on the spot, Andy. All right. I'm the decider now.
Oh wait, before you do, Dan, let's go to the live chat
Oh
and
yeah,
see what
of
they
course,
would pick.
Of course.
Studio Camille. Michiel would pick. He would buy the synth droids. He would borrow the Starcaster. He would also burn the Jackson. Sorry, Pat and Dan. Oops. Valeria. She would buy the Joth Smith signature Jackson. Woohoo! We are redeemed. Borrow the little speaker droids and burn Fender's wannabe idea. Oh, come on. Come on, Valeria. We were friends. And then Melodify would, another one for the Jackson, buy the Soloist, borrow Fender, burn the Teenage Engineering synth. So the same pick as Pat there. And that's all I've got on my screen because I got kicked off. Have you got any more, Dan, that you'd like to read out?
Yeah, of course. Who else do we got? Melodify we had already. We had Ian Johnston, who said buy the Starcaster and get some of those fret stickers. It's not stickers, it's inlays.
No.
Original Ron Thorns.
Yeah. Borrow Pinocchio because it would look good on a shelf. I'm not arguing with that. And it can be messed with, and burn the Jackson. I think he doesn't justify why burning the Jackson, so it's probably just a leftover pick, right?
Same as me. Same
Yeah,
reason as me, I would guess. I'm going to
Yeah.
put words in his mouth on his screen.
Yeah, and then we have Gary who said buy the Starcaster, borrow the speakers, and burn the Jackson because he's not in need of a 7-string. Understood.
He's already got a Jackson 7-string. That's why.
Yeah.
Exactly. We've got one more from Jake Lee, who is our guest next week on the show. Hello, Jake Lee. He's going to buy the DeLonge, obviously, borrow the Jackson, and burn the creepy wooden guys. I think that's my favorite reasoning this week. That's definitely. They are a bit creepy. I'd imagine they play each other at night. They just sort of do that sort of stop motion 70s cartoon thing.
But imagine how great they would look if they would be burning and still making music. Some Hendrix vibe going on, right?
Oh, that could be cool.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
sounds like a project for Pat, to be honest.
Yeah, I think everybody who said burn the Jackson was thinking of the Hendrix style burn the Jackson, play Monterey Pop, throw the guitar, light it up. Yeah, they're putting on a show.
Definitely. Right, let's hear Dan's reasoning.
All right,
what are you going to do, mate?
I'm the tiebreaker or the decider. Okay, I'm doing something that I've rarely done. I'm buying the Tom DeLonge. But here's a question: would you rather have a made in USA version and a Squire version? Or would you go like the original Tom DeLonge Stratocaster, go with a mid-priced made in Mexico iteration?
That is a fine question.
Thank you very much.
Oh my goodness. All right, if I were Fender, I would do the Mexican. I would release a Mexican player Tom DeLonge. Then I would wait on the Squire, because then you'd want the Squire buyers to go for the Mexican player. And I would release the Fender high-end version, and then way down the line in some time, I would release the Squire version. So my pick of those would be the Mexican player or the Mexican version.
Pat, what about you?
Good question.
Oh, I mean, master built only. I think that's the way to do it. No, of course. No. Well, I think I see your reasoning there, right? It's like you want to have as many buyers as you can, right? Like if it's a made in Mexico version, it's going to be, reasonably priced and kind of reach the widest audience. So I don't disagree with you there. Of course, the folks that work in Mexico come and a lot of the engineers come and work with us here in Corona and stuff too. So it's all one big happy family. I think it's going to be great no matter where it's made. But of course, here in Corona, I would love to see those rolling off the floor every day and pick up more of them up. So I'm going to say, like a Made in America version. But I don't know. It's all speculation at this point. I just saw the guitars.
Is
and
it?
You guys
Is it,
saw
Pat?
the videos.
Is it?
Well, that is very serious. I have no part of that. So absolutely not.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's fine.
All right, so we stick with buy the Made in Mexico Tom DeLonge, because I think Made in Mexico would probably be good enough for the ones that could also afford the Made in USA version, and still in reach for those guys who normally buy a Squire. So like a common denominator, something that sits right in the middle and kind of gets the people from both sides of the spectrum. I would borrow the synth droids because I so want to play with them and with the kids. And that's why, and I think that's the first on the show, I would burn my own pick, which is a Great Jackson, because I don't need a 7-string, and I don't necessarily like working with Evertunes, but it's a great looking guitar. So yeah, that's my pick of the week. Andy, I think you won.
I don't believe it. Firstly, we've deeply insulted our guest, and secondly, I've won. I think I'm the winner for the first time in, I want to say, 3 or 4 months.
It's pretty funny.
From a guitar that doesn't even exist.
But it's real because Pat already had it in his hands, so it exists. It's good looking, it's out there, and it's being road tested. So
Oh my God.
I think it's great news. Great news that Tom is back with Fender, and you kind of switched from Gibson, and seeing a new signature guitar maybe on the horizon. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to happen.
All right. Woo.
Right. Well, I'm really sorry, Pat, that we decided to burn your beautiful related guitar. I'm sure
picked the Fender.
We picked the Fender. We stayed within the family, right? And but yeah, I think you came second, Pat. I think the weird little synth droids came second.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my pick, yeah. Well,
There's something from that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad people were seeing my side of the coin there. With the stepping out of the box a little bit. So that's cool. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the Soloist is a great pick as well. I think we'll have to buy all 3.
Fair, absolutely
Ideal.
fair.
Yeah, ideal.
So, I said to the live chat earlier that we could have some questions for Pat. Now is the time to throw them in the chat, and we will star them and read them out as and when we can. I know Dan has some burning questions, so why not go with one of those, Dan?
Oh yeah, of course. Actually, something that popped up when we were talking about the Jackson guitar was that it's equipped with something like Evertune that's rather a more progressive kind of spec in the overall lineup. And throughout the course of the last years, we've seen some specs like lumen lace, stainless steel frets, Evertune bridges, etc., becoming like industry standards on some guitar segments. Pat, what do you think is the best invention in the guitar universe that has like become industry standard in the last decade? Is there something where you say, well, this is like a standout feature that is so genius that it should have been there forever?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things. I love stainless steel frets. That's a huge one. It's a one and done kind of thing. If you could wear out stainless steel frets, then you're playing that guitar like crazy. So that's a favorite of mine. I know some folks think there's a tonal difference, and there is some very slight thing, but you really have to have great ears, especially in a live setting, to be able to parse that out. The other thing is locking tuners. I mean, I know they've been around for a while, but it's like, why locking tuners are the best. Like, what's the deal, guys? Even on a Floyd Rose guitar, it's just like thread them through and lock them up.
That is the point. There's some sort of argument going on if a guitar with a locking trem really needs locking tuners. It doesn't hurt, but it kind of
Yeah.
increases the price a little bit. So that's an ongoing, let's say, an ongoing debate among some YouTubers and also some companies if that's a necessity or not.
Well, it's not strictly a necessity, but it is a convenience. Like you thread the strings through, you lock it down, and you snip the excess off, and then it's great.
Yeah.
It's like, one of the best features. And actually, the type of tuners that I personally like, I like the vintage Fender kind where like the string goes down through the middle of the post, and then you wrap it around. But there's no way to lock those. So, and the reason I like that is because you'll never prick your finger on one of the strings. If you make a lot of guitars and you set them up all day, that is like, it hurts, especially like a G string, or like a really like an 18 gauge plain wound string just like pierces your finger. It's like being a kid at the doctor again. It stinks. No. Yeah, so that's why I love those so much. And they look classy and really nice.
They are also kind of locking as well, the vintage Fenders. They're also my favorite tuners. And they kind of lock themselves. They don't, but they kind of do that. I would rather have a vintage Fender style than a non-locking tuner. I think it goes locking tuner, vintage Fender style, anything else.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And you could make a Strat with vintage tuners and a 6-point trem stay in tune really, really, really well if you know how to set it up, like how to stretch your strings, how to dive the trem every time that you're tuning it up. There's like a lot of like little tricks. Sometimes like you'll spend a whole hour just getting the intonation and the tuning perfect, and then you could pull the Steve Vai tricks and like hold the guitar up by the arm and do everything, and it'll stay in tune even with bone nut and whatever. If you get the staggered tuners, that's cool. But even the vintage ones, as long as you don't put too many lines, that's the big one. And you just got to stretch those strings out. Like that's the number one thing that I notice is people put on a fresh set of strings, they tune it up once, and they're like, my guitar falls out of tune. So stretch it out. I also do this thing where if this is the saddle and the string rests over it, a fresh string kind of will rise out of the saddle. You have to put the little kink in it right where the saddle is, and also by the nut. If you do those two things, if you stretch the string and then put those two little kinks in there, you'll get a much more honest view of what the string action is going to be, of the way that the string will stay in tune. Those are kind of like little things you learn over the years.
How do you guess where, or how do you know, rather than guess, where that kink should be when you put the string in? Do you do it manually, or do you push it in once it's in the guitar?
So I'll put the strings on the guitar, I'll tune it up, I'll stretch them, up and down, all 6 strings. Once I do that, I'll tune it back up, and then I'll take my pick and I'll just kind of press on the top of each of the saddles, and then by the nut, and then boom, you're done.
Okay.
I have never done that, and I now can think of at least 2 guitars that I've sold that may have been salvageable by doing just that one thing.
Yeah, and it's really important. It's really important when you cut the nut too, because if the string is leaving the nut, right? There's kind of an angle, there's a break angle. If the string continues to go up, then what happens is you get a false sense of what the action is over the top of the first fret. If you put that little kink in there after you stretch the strings and do all that, then you could actually cut the nut properly, because after you play the guitar for like, let's say a few hours, that'll naturally happen, but I just do it ahead of time and then it's done.
I think
how do you do it with the nuts? I need to know exactly how you do it. I've got bridge. I'm done there. I figured that out. How do you do it with the nut? Do you also just press the pick behind the nut?
Okay. Hold on.
Please.
Here we go.
Oh, yeah. No.
Master builder advice. Thank you.
You just do
Can
this.
I put you full screen, Pat? Is that okay if I put you full screen?
Yeah.
That's me. There is you. Right.
Okay. So.
Oh, it's a Tom DeLonge Starcaster Squire.
Yeah. So you stretch your strings, right? You do this, and then at the bridge, you'll just do this. You'll press down with the pick, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll do the same thing here. I'll just hold the strings on behind the nut, and then I'll just do this.
So you put the pick in front of the nuts for that one.
Yeah, and then I just push down. Yep. Boom. That's it.
Dirty little secret.
Oh man,
That's a
I
shame.
got so excited then. I love learning stuff about guitars, and anyone who thinks they don't need to learn anymore is absolutely lying and living in a little shallow world. So I love not knowing stuff and then discovering it, especially live on my YouTube channel.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you're this hands-on with guitars every day for, well over a decade now, I mean, I started playing when I was 12, 13, and immediately started taking my guitars apart and doing this whole thing. That's how I really got into it. And when I was in college too, my teachers would give me their guitars to like set up or do stuff because I was a decent player, but like it became clear to me when I was like in the middle of college, like I'm actually much better at the tech side of stuff and like the gear tweaking and things. So I just really like leaned into that. And, you start learning these little tricks after either making mistakes, that's like a big one, or, just learning along the way. And that's one of the big reasons I came to Jackson too, was I was going to be surrounded by other master builders that are like incredible at what they do, been doing it for a long time, know things I don't know. I'm sure I drive them nuts, asking them a million questions every day, but it's part of the game, and I just think like, oh, how do you do this? How do you do that? I asked like a million like dumb questions, the same question in like 3-4 different ways, and to the point where it's like, are you sure you're not dumb? Like, how to do this? And I'm like, yeah, I know. But like, how do you do this? How do you do that? And it just becomes one of those things where it's like, I'm really in my mind trying to dissect like each little step of the way, and you kind of like revise your format every time. Even now as I build, and as I was saying, when we cut off, like, if I'm making a new guitar, I'll make a full 3D model of it. I'll make my own fixtures for the CNC machine, my own tool paths. And then I realized like, oh, when I cut this way, I can go full depth, but when I do this, I can't. So I really want to like perfect each one of the order of operations. And that part of the setup thing, I learned kind of, maybe like 8 or so years ago or something like that, just like going mad because I'd set up the guitar and then eventually the strings would sync and then the guitar would buzz. And when you make guitars for folks that are going on the road, have 250 dates in a year, and then they call you after the second gig and they're like, I am not going to play this guitar because I can't rely on it. That's, immediately you change your methods. And it was great because it really helped hone your skill, when you have to perform like on the spot. It's interesting way to grow, Yep. Makes any sense.
It does. So, Pat, I just had a moment when you passed this information on to me, and it sort of went in my brain and will never leave now. I'm sure you've also learned, as you said, from other master builders and other just general people in the guitar business. What was the last moment where you learned something like I just learned that made you jump out of your seat or flow about?
Oh, where I learned something where I'm like, oh.
Yeah, like a eureka moment, but
no, you know what? One thing I learned when I first got to Fender was, it's more of a manufacturing type of thing, but the use of like vacuum fixtures. Fender uses a lot of like all the CNC machines have like a tube that sits on the front of the table, and you can hook up little vacuum hoses, and that's how you hold the work down, which is cool. It's really cool. The classic way in guitar making is you take a template and you double stick tape it to a piece of wood and you use a pin router. You do it by hand, but I like to keep my fingers away from the sharp spinny thing. So I learned a lot of the CNC work, just I had the luxury of learning it, and I've made guitars on pin routers, and I still use them more now today actually than I ever did, just because they are convenient, and ours is set up and very well. But the vacuum fixturing thing, it's so cool because I don't have to use double-sided tape. I used to buy like a case of double-sided tape and and just stick that thing down and yeah, so like the work holding thing where I'm like, oh, okay, so you want to hold the fixture down and then you want to hold the workpiece down. They have to have separate vacuum channels, and it really, I'm like super nerdy into the engineering part of it. So
Yeah.
and learning like the metalworking part of things too. Like my Prestige guitar last year, I made all the hardware and stuff, so that was like a big one.
Wow.
For me.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Wow.
How many guitars like per month do you roughly build? Because it must vary so much between, you know, a standard build where you know, take a stock, let's say Evertune bridge, and put it on a guitar, or where you actually craft your own hardware and do some sort of, you know, that micro engineering stuff. Like
It varies. Like sometimes I'll get an order like I should have brought it upstairs, but like I have a batch of 12 Warriors that are all like the blood drip finish. And so with those, I do all the woodworking, and then I'll send them into paint, and then the paint team paints them black, you know, their oil necks, whatever. I'll say, hey, put the logo on the headstock, and then I come in and I do the blood drip of the finish, you know, and then they'll top coat them, and then we'll do assembly. But I try to do as much of it as I can. I would say all the guitars that I've made here so far, like I've done, you know, 99% of it. Every once in a while, I'll ask for a little hand, maybe like putting the frets in, or sanding something or something like that. But I've also been really hands-on lately with American Series soloists, working with the team that's making those guitars, and you know, working with Buff and Polish and Mill Crew and all the folks that do frets. And I show them how I do mine. I do like the rounded fret ends and stuff, and I'll be like, well, you know, these are more like a classic Jackson, so we won't round them as much, but I'll show them like all the techniques and why it matters that we do this step now and that step next. And you know, but most of the time I'll only make hardware if it's going to be like a super duper special project.
Okay.
The Frank Bello basses, like the brass nut, we don't we make brass nuts the for Fenders, but they have a curved bottom. But since I make the necks myself, like, and I'll take a thick piece of maple, I'll saw off the fingerboard, and then I'll join them back together so the grain meshes back perfectly. I make a flat bottom nut slot. So I made the brass nut and I pre-slot it on the mill. So when I glue it in there, I don't have to trace it out or do any of that stuff.
Cool.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
I know, I go over the top.
But that's why it's custom shop, right?
Yeah.
Actually, Andy and I were wondering. I read an interview about you that you said that you have all that creative freedom where the sky basically is the limit. There have been some, like I said, some amazing builds that we have been drooling over also on the show, like this one, for instance. How much like creative freedom do you have, or what's the percentage of custom orders where you already know what you have to build, or can you just come up like with this guitar? Do you figure out, okay, olive drab is kind of cool at the moment, let's do some sort of a, you know, retro relict kind of version of that, of a sleek shred guitar? Like what's the thinking behind that?
Well, during the year, most of the time we just have orders. There's a queue of orders for master builders. So we try and tackle as many of those as we can. But if an artist places an order, or we have, like an artist will spec out their guitar, so we'll make them their guitar. It's essentially treated like an order. And then for the shows, like that green guitar, it's a TK22. That was for our online dealer event. That was my choice. So I spec'd it all out and I just did, you know, whatever. But I could have made that guitar any color or did whatever inlays, and nobody said I have to make a DK22. I just like that guitar a lot. I love the reverse slant bridge pickup. I really like those Phil Collin Sugar Chakra pickups, the DiMarzios.
Yeah.
I love the control layout. It's called the Pro Mod layout. So like the 5-way blade, volume tone. My favorite bridge of all time is that Godot 510 2-point tremolo. I think it's the best Strat style trem. It stays in tune perfectly. The arm, I actually like the shape of the arm. It's a little fatter than like a normal trem arm. And I made that puzzle piece neck joint too, which is kind of a trick I stole from Ron Thorne. So back in the day, when it was Thorne guitars, he did kind of like a little indentation in the neck pocket so the neck wouldn't shift. And I started doing it where I would do it on both sides, and I could put the neck in there, pick up the body, and wave it around, and it wouldn't go anywhere. I always like that. It sounds really good too.
It's just cool as well. When
Just because you can, right?
Yeah.
It's annoyingly complicated. You really got to get the paint thickness like perfect, otherwise it won't sit down in the pocket, right? So it's like you really got to monitor everything, all your thicknesses throughout the whole process. But yeah, I love that guitar. I love ash, like an ash body. That was a one-piece ash. And yeah, I did the relic on that on my own or whatever,
I think we had that as a pick of the week.
Yeah,
Am I right in saying that, Dan?
Yeah.
I fell in love with the guitar so hard. It's so beautiful.
Okay, I'll have to do more of those then, because I was really surprised. Most of the time, based on what I thought I knew, green guitars don't really sell that well. At least that's what I thought. Or
To some degree. I think like the Schecter, Nick Johnson kind of green ones, they sold pretty well. And the whole, I think, especially with Gibson and those kind of,
I have a green one right
yeah,
here.
you got the Moa one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, is that a Schecter? Oh, that's a Schecter.
That's a Schecter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like olive drab and that kind of dark greenish is a little bit on vogue at the moment. It's really trending.
Well, olive
Drab
like,
does it for me, man. Oh,
Yeah.
so good.
I love that color too. I think it's slightly different than like, if you were to think of like transparent green on a flame top, right? Like that's very vibrant, like emerald green. I guess maybe that's what I'm thinking. Whereas that guitar, I had a very specific color in mind. I wanted green gold. I was like, gold, green, and I go to Jay in color, Jay Nelson, the Fender Master Builder painter, and I said, hey, I want this. And I was like, how can we do that? So we picked a gold, I believe it was Shoreline gold, or it might have been Aztec gold, and then the candy green over the top of it, and then all nitro. It's all done exactly to like, and I stood there as he's spraying the green, and I was like, one more time. All right, one more time. I have it on video because he's like, is this enough? And I was like, one more. And then he does it, and then I was like, okay, we're good.
Oh, amazing.
Wow.
I think there's a video about one of the layers being sprayed on Instagram as well.
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah, so
I love watching those videos. I love it when Fender do their spray booth Instagram videos. I watch the whole thing. I get to the end, I think, what am I doing? I should be playing guitar, but instead I'm just watching some guy up and down and spinning the wheel, and I'm like, wow, that's pure art.
yeah, folks really like to see the behind the scenes of the guitar making process. So every time there's like a video being shot in the factory or something, they're like, hey, make some wood chips. Like people love to see wood chips, or like do this, like blow the dust off of whatever you're working on.
Stop it.
You know what I like most? If they remove the masking tape, if they do some sort of binding or something, and then the tape gets removed, and you see that perfect paint job kind of, where it's just a straight line.
So we call that detail, like paint detail. So when they tape up the binding and then they peel it back, and then it's just like Yeah. That's a good one.
That's what I call gear porn.
I painted my son's room the other day, and I was thinking of that as I was removing the tape from the join. And I was thinking of these videos where you get that perfect straight line, and I peeled my tape and I was pretending to do that, and I saw my line was like this over the face. No!
Yeah. Well, the way you do it on a guitar, it's like when you glue the fingerboard to the main part of the neck, right? Both those pieces better be perfectly flat, otherwise you're gonna have a whole other heap of problems, right? So if you look straight down the neck, that line should be straight. So you just inch up like less than half a millimeter from that ledge, and then you just ride the tape along that line, and then it's not too bad. I've seen some get a little squiggly, it turns into child little crayon session or something, but it's not too hard to fix.
Have you ever had a build where, for whatever reason, you kind of bombed because the guitar kind of turned out not as you had envisioned it, or it was just not, resonating well? Or is there some sort of builds where you just say, I'll probably do it again?
Do it again. I'm like maybe in my early days, trying to make, I made some hollow body basses and stuff. And I made one that was more like a solid body base, but it was hollowed out inside. And I thought I was going to get a little more volume out of it. And it was fine. It sounded fine, played fine. But it just wasn't like the excitement of I made this one that was like huge, got on magazine covers and stuff. And that was cool. And it got a lot of attention. And trying to recreate that big old thing to be more travel friendly never really panned out. I always wanted another crack at that, to make a lighter version of that big bass. Other than that, I'm trying to think things that didn't really pan. Well, I mean, what happens a lot of the time is we'll come up with an idea, you put your heart and soul into it, you'll really put a lot of effort into it, and then it doesn't get as much attention as you hoped or thought. And then the thing that you're just like, oh, I'm gonna do this. I got to make, 12 guitars for the show, or 15, or whatever it is. They're like, hey, this is a cool idea. I'm gonna put this together, and then that becomes this huge hit. I did a Charvel where it was black relic over Fiesta Red, and that got so much attention. And to me, I was just I was how is this so, where I was like, oh, great, I'm glad, but I was like, for that year, for my Prestige and stuff, I made all the hardware. I spent hundreds of hours, honestly, making all the programming and doing all this stuff, and it wasn't as big of a hit. And I think that's another lesson of what I like isn't necessarily what my customers, clients, everybody else likes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of those things you learn with experience too, is making things that people love aren't necessarily what I love, but it's a learning experience, so I think that's really one of those moments. That's one of those aha moments in guitar making, right?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
it? I've just put a guitar on screen.
Hey, yeah.
First, I'm amazed I found it. My Googling Kung Fu is pretty strong, but
That's pretty good.
that is a beautiful guitar.
Oh, thank you.
It did
Yeah.
sell as well. It sold, and it sold in Germany.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Oh, yeah.
So it
Yeah,
went
so-
to Munich to Pro Music Tools.
Yeah. That's an actual custom shop body, like a Fender custom shop body, and we did it kind of in the spirit of Charvel, which is make a custom neck for it. That's why I did the spoke wheel truss rod, bird's eye, did the legacy tuners on it, and then the pick guard. It's black, white, black, but I made it red in the middle little layer.
Sweet. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like the
Really
gold
cool.
hardware as well. It works. You've got the gold, the gold bridge and the gold whole trem system and the knob, and then the tuners look silver or chrome to me. Is that right?
It's all raw brass.
Wow, okay.
Oh, wow.
Even the tuners are raw brass, and over time they patina, right?
Ooh, that's interesting. That's
So
sexy.
they get beat up. So
Yeah.
Good-looking
those
guitar.
tuners are the Charvel legacy tuners. They're available right hand only. They're made by Goto. They have a really weird mounting pattern, and they're a great tuner. They have a unique button shape, but they're brass plated, which is like the strangest thing. And then they get like pitted. Yeah, it's cool.
I dig it. You know when you find something you didn't know you needed, and now I can't live without it. That's
Yeah,
I need to somehow get one of those.
they're cool.
I take it over the Tom DeLonge at this point, and I was super excited about that.
All right, it's a win.
Yeah, well done. So we've been maybe forgiven for burning the Jackson soloist.
Oh no, you did it Monterey Pop style, you know.
Oh yeah, true. Whew, I shouldn't have mentioned it. I didn't talk about it. No one mentioned it. We'll cut that out. Yeah. A question. You play right-handed, right? You're a right-handed person.
Yeah.
Do you build left-handed guitars, and if so, how weird is that for you?
Yes, I do. Yes, it's weird. Yes, I think left-handed players should be forced to learn right-handed.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, I'll put it to you this way: every left-handed player that I know that was forced to learn right-handed, like I had a teacher at Berkeley, this guy Joe Stump. Guy shreds like crazy. He's so good because his dominance is in his left hand. So his finger independence is like incredible. And then he had to learn his right hand, you know, but when you think about it, it's like much harder to do the finger independence on the left hand than it is to figure out the right hand. So I never understood, like, I always thought it should be backwards anyways. You know, more people should learn reverse. But that's just my, you know, weird brain. But yeah, left-handed guitars, making them is weird. Like, because you're constantly thinking right-handed, and then you're like, oh, I gotta do that, like putting the logo on the guitar. Which way do I do this? They want a left-handed guitar with a reverse headstock, so a right-handed headstock. So now what? You know, it's a mess. You know. Yeah.
It also looks weird when you have the logo at the top and it's running the wrong way into the design of the shape.
Yeah. The you know, the way to fix this is no left-handed guitars. That's it. They don't make left-handed pianos.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
I think we had a whole episode. It was called "The Lazy Lefty." That was, I think, at the very end of the first season, where we've been talking about the whole lefty situation time and again. And there are so many great lefty players like Nick Johnson, Mark Knopfler, you know, those kind of guys. And
yeah,
you know,
they're incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm jealous of their playing. You know, it's like so good. But yeah, I mean, what can I say? No thanks. No thanks for that. No, I'm kidding. Of course, I'll make a left-handed whatever. You know, it's like you place the order, I'm gonna make it. Like I'll make it something that looks like your microwave if that's what you want, man. It's like, Jackson is the original custom shop. I mean, really, if you think about it, it's like we made crazy stuff for forever, and nothing was too hard or too difficult or too out there. And you know, they've made guitars, you know, that were headless back in the day. They did, you know, all sorts of double necks where the headstocks like converge, or different hardware. It is the super strat, you know, it is that, you know, essence of like modifying your guitar for high performance. So that's really, you know, I'm up for the challenge. I like doing the hard stuff. It helps me grow.
What was the most challenging build so far? Except for the acoustic semi-hollow bass that you talked earlier about.
Yeah, that was tough. The hardest thing. I've had a few that were like really hard paint jobs. I did a guitar that was all gold once, and I really hated that guitar. That thing stunk. That paint job is a nightmare because it's like a weird chemical reaction, and you only have like 15 seconds to make it all flash off correctly.
Okay.
So you have to paint the whole guitar. It just doesn't work right, What else? I did these mirror top guitars, and those are really hard because the mirror material is like very difficult to work with. It's acrylic, and anything that's like got any like exotic material tends to be difficult with adhesives and finishing and that whole thing. So those have been some of the harder ones. But every guitar is hard.
Yeah.
It stinks. Yeah, sometimes I'm just like, oh man, this stinks. But it comes out cool in the end. So it's fun.
Sweet.
On the flip side, was there anything you ever built that you didn't want to let go of? Something you would have rather kept in your collection?
All the time. All the time. Yeah. Like every time I make something that I'm like, oh man, this thing is a real doozy. I'm like, I don't want to let this go. I just did a guitar for this guy, Nils, in number one Guitar Center there in Germany.
Hamburg. Yep.
Yeah.
Nils
And,
Finkeisen,
yeah. And the spec he ordered, the way it came out and the way it sounded when I plugged it in, I was like, damn, this thing rocks. I was like, this guitar came out really good. So every once in a while, like that green guitar that you posted, like the neck shape was perfect for me, and like I really dug the sound of the pickups. That was cool. Some other ones that I've done, I'm trying to think of like I'm making one for an artist right now that's like hot pink, and I'm like, oh man, this thing is cool. I would love to have this. More than not, I want to keep them, but I know I can't. So they're like my kids. I gotta set them free and let them live their life.
Let them fly.
Yeah.
But that would lead us to the question: as a master builder, you probably get to build your own like annual employee guitar or something. What is no? I haven't. I haven't had the fortune to do that yet. Okay.
But I hope I can one of these days. Yeah.
All right. Well, then let's rephrase it. Like, if you were allowed to build you your personal employee guitar, what specs would you choose?
Good question. Yeah, I think about this like, if I had a Jackson build and then a Fender build.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe even a Gretsch too. I love that stuff too. I really like hollow body, so that's why I love Gretsch so much too. And I'm in awe of Chad and Gonzalo and Steven Stern and everybody up there. But for a Jackson, I would want a Rhodes likely, just because it's like so classic. But if I actually was thinking about playing it constantly, I'd pick myself a soloist for sure. I think I'd do a reverse head.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. I'd probably go pretty classic. I'd probably just do, ebony fingerboard with the shark fin inlays, like the classic stuff, like an SL2. Just because the guitar itself is so perfect to play, and it's like so comfortable. I made the one that I really wanted to keep for myself was I call it the Martini guitar. It had
with the stripes, the racing stripes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. That's on one of the recent posts on your account. Yeah.
So that I do my own version of like a carved out heel on that guitar, and that was all roasted mahogany, ebony fretboard, lumen lay, glow in the dark shark fin inlays, and it's my favorite racing livery. That's probably what I would make for myself. Those Govan pickups sound so good. I would probably just do that. I wasn't a big Floyd guy for the longest time, but now I'm getting more and more, in love with it. Like I said, I really like that Goto 2-point. So I'd have to pick myself one of those. You know,
All right.
if I make myself a Fender, I'll do that white blonde, like Mary Kay White 2-point.
Very
Yeah.
classic.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
white blonde is my favorite color. Yeah, it's like on a really nice piece of ash. Like it looks so good. I'm like, you know, I know I make crazy metal guitars and stuff, but like I have such varied taste. I went to school for jazz. I mean, it's kind of silly. So, you know, yeah.
All right.
What
So
about you guys?
I've just found something that you've built that I again have fallen in love with. It's this.
oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's a single pickup. It's in Wildwood Guitars in, I think, Louisville. Louisville. And it's
2 pickup.
it is 2 pickup. Yeah, there's a pickup hiding in the little pick guard thing. It's like a graphite kind of thing. It's got shark fins. It's an ebony fingerboard. It's neck through, 24 jumbo frets. Man, that is a killer guitar.
Yeah, we call that the Spectrum pickguard. It's real carbon fiber. It's just a sheet of carbon that I cut out, and and it's very similar pickups to that Josh Smith or the bare knuckle, dual blade. What's it?
Yeah.
It turns out to be 8
These are
blades.
the Black Hawk humbuckers, apparently, according to this.
Black Hawk. Yeah. And yeah, the Pearl logo on the headstock. And just graffiti yellow, baby. That thing is real screamer. Yeah.
Yeah. You're not going to lose that in a snowstorm.
No. And actually the pick guard, whoever gets this guitar, you could tell, the way that it's shaped and the way that the standard controls are laid out. You know, I machined the pick guard so it perfectly fits around the knob, but it fits around
Nice.
the washer and the nut. So it sits like really nice and flush to the pickguard, and it looks cool. Yeah,
Fantastic.
It's a beautiful guitar.
Secret touch on a guitar where it's like that black and red guitar underneath the neck plate and stuff. I like stamped and some fun, just like my initials or something, or something.
I saw that on the Martini guitar, and I was pretty impressed. If you take a look at the back of it, it says. Here, there's a little at the bottom of the guitar. There's your initials or your logo, kind of thingy.
Yeah. So every master builder has a master built logo. And when I joined up, I was like, oh, what's mine going to be? The other Jackson guys just have it's kind of round. It says Master Built USA, and then their signature in the middle. Yeah. And I like that, but I was like, oh, what is Jackson to me? Jackson to me is the shark fin. So my logo or my signature is my initials in the 12th fret shark fin, and that one I inlaid, so it's lumen lay and that whole deal.
That is pretty unique.
Yeah, and then my initials are PFC, but G is for my grandpa who taught me everything. His last name is Gaetano, so that's what it's for.
Wow,
very cool.
Yeah. And by the way, great guitar. That's the Martini racing inspired guitar, right?
Yeah. I mean, that thing is like, it was painted by Dan Lawrence, DRL Graphics.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And yeah, like the way that I do the scooped heel on that and pretty much I would take that exact guitar. I might paint it a different color if I was going to play it every day. But I really like Olympic white. That's cool too. I have a Strat that's Olympic white. It's hard to beat.
I would so love to see a kind of rally-inspired series, with the Toyota Celica colors, the white, red, greenish ones, and then the Ford Focus kind of ones, and that would be amazing. Have a whole series that's inspired by those old rally icons, Colin McRae and all those.
Yeah, I thought about doing stuff like that before because I'm a huge Formula One fan.
Okay.
And it's not so popular in America, so I'm kind of an outlier here. But I know it's huge in Europe. But like, of course, Ferrari fan, it would be cool to do like matte red and black, or I don't know if I do papaya orange for what McLaren's rocking these days, but maybe like the red and white.
That would fit with Jackson, I think, for sure.
Oh yeah, it would. But like the red and white Marlboro, you know, Senecars or whatever, or like the old school Williams days, like blue and white are cool. Or like the Jordan team, or you know, the Benetton teams or whatever. Those are all really cool liveries back in the day. There's so many like historic ones. You know, as unfun as it was to watch Mercedes win for, you know, a better part of a decade, it still would be cool to do like that gray with the teal and the black and stuff. You know, I think that would be fun. Yeah.
So we know you have a hard out in a very, very short time. So I guess we should ask you one last question, and that is, what is coming next from you? What can you share with us that we might see in the very near future from the Jackson Custom Shop?
Next from us, you know, we're always working on new guitars and things. So I'll have a few that I'll be posting soon. Like I said, some of those Warriors. I did all the paint jobs myself, so they're all kind of varied, different, you know, blood drips and stuff. I have some show guitars coming out next year that'll be fun. And speaking of the Starcaster that you liked so much, that Warrior that I just posted maybe a week or so ago, it's kind of based on a Starcaster color, which is that kind of like petrol blue look. So I actually mixed that color myself. I took a couple of different ones from the shop, and I, you know, played chemist and did whatever. Yeah, but I like doing stuff like that. And yeah, next year should be fun. There are some cool projects that are in the works. I can't give away too much, but you know, my hope is that they'll, you know, make a big impact. So I'm pretty excited, and you know, it's been a lot of fun doing all this stuff here. It's great. So I can't thank Fender enough, and Jackson guys and my team and everybody for being so kind and helping me. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of speaks for itself, all the enthusiasm that you know with that you talk about your profession, you know, what is your daily job, is it's kind of really contagious, and really, you know, gives us a good feeling that you're in a happy place there, and you know, we can admire your creations over the course of the next decade or even longer. So we're looking forward to seeing more crazy designs and vintage white colored Jacksons and whatnot. So yeah.
Well, you're always welcome to come and visit again, and I'd love to have you. What would you guys like to see next?
More olive green and more of the other green one. Basically, more green guitars, please, and that yellow one. More outrageous things. Let's see how outrageous you can get. You know, it's just a guitar that screams "Look at me," but you know, plays like a monster.
Okay, olive green. I think I could pull it off. Sounds pretty good. More green, more outrageous. Yeah, it's just what my mother was asking for as I was a kid. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Well,
right.
Thank you everybody for joining us on the show. If you're listening to the audio version, I hope you also enjoyed yourself. And Pat, it's been really wonderful talking to you, and thank you for opening my eyes to even more guitars that I didn't know that I needed to play. So it's been wonderful. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much.
All right, guys. Well, then, if you like the show, make sure to share it, and follow Pat on Instagram so you see all his latest creations. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube, and you know, hope to see you next week for episode 89. Thanks, Pat. It was a pleasure, and hope to see you around, either in the US or maybe in Germany if you're there. So,
Of course.
all right, guys. Well,
Thank
then,
you.
Good night, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Do you want to do the honors, Dan? Do you want to press the final video, because you can do the graphics tonight?
Oh yeah,
Just
yeah,
to
yeah.
add to the stress.
All right, of course. Well then, good night, everyone.
Bye.
Guitar Stories Podcast, your #1 show for everything guitar.